Welcome to Cash Flow Savannah. This is episode 10. Chandler, how are you today?
I am doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Good. I know you got to take some time off last week. Did you have a good time?
Yeah, it was good. Went and saw George Strait in Nashville. So
Nice. Were you
can't
thinking
be
the whole time that you'd rather be at work? Sid was here, maybe? No?
I was thinking about it.
A little bit. We tried to leave you alone. I specifically said that. I was like, no one text Chandler. He's on vacation. So
That was pretty good.
perfect.
Pretty
That's
good.
good. I'm glad you have fun. We have a great topic today. We're going to be talking about seller financing, and I am proud to say that I have done seller financing several times, and I got a new deal under contract, and it's going to be seller financed. And I think it'd be great to talk about it today. It's a really great learning opportunity. I know a lot of people have no experience with this, and that's why we want to talk about it. I'm actually very proud that we're talking about a lot of real estate topics that most people aren't. Before we get into our topic, I do have some news. Oh, I wanted to tell you a story, Chandler. I think that you'll like this. This is funny.
Okay.
I was at an event, a networking event yesterday, and of course I'm running around. And so before I went in, we submitted an offer. Well, I'm a buyer's agent. Like, we submit offers all the time, and I'm used to getting my teeth kicked in. Like, most of the offers I submit, they're like raw. They get kind of mad, and their nose gets out of joint, and sometimes I had one agent tell me my client should buy a trailer. Sometimes it gets a little heated, and I enjoy it. Like, I represent the buyer, and my buyers are investors, and I'm always going for the lowest price possible because that's how they get the best return. So I actually have very thick skin. I don't care. I fully expect the brawl. And if I can win one of them and get something under contract, like, I feel really good about it because I really worked hard, for that to happen. So of course, I submit like my fourth offer of the month, and it's like August 1, and I'm really not thinking about it. I had to do all this. I was talking, and so I wasn't looking at my phone. So I walk out of the event like literally an hour and a half later, and the agent had texted me, and he goes, "Thanks for the offer. My seller is signing it right now." And I was like, what? Like, I took five figures, a solid five-figure number off of the sales price for my buyer with, no hesitation whatsoever, submitted it thinking, we're going to go a couple of rounds, and they took it. And I was like, I've never had an offer. It hit me. I've never had an offer accepted like that. Never have I ever not gotten
Really?
kind of
Much better than
pushback. I don't do full price offers. I don't do above ask offers unless it's like a killer deal and the investors are swarming. I mean, I've done that, but
Yeah.
even those, it's very hard to get accepted. But yeah, I've never had an offer come that easily ever, because I guess I'm just an evil shark and I deserve to get punched in the nose, but I was like, wow, I didn't even have to work for it. Like, I was so excited. I just wanted to share that, like, that's like literally my win for my life. I don't think I'll
Yeah.
ever get another one accepted again because I'm pretty aggressive, but I'm really proud of that.
Was it sitting for a while or?
It sat for about 30 days. Things are softening here a little bit. I'm not going to say that they're softening a ton. Yeah, so I'm really proud of that. That's never happened. It'll probably never happen again, but like, anyway, I'm really happy for my
If
buyer.
you can get some more offers, it'll happen.
You think? Do you know how many offers I've submitted in my lifetime? Like, it's a lot. Like, I'm not used to this kind of reaction, but maybe, if the market softens, maybe. But I was really proud. And of course, my poor buyer was like, oh no, I overpaid. And I told him honestly, I said, I truly think that you nailed this guy's bottom number. And that's okay. Like, it's a solid deal. It's
Yeah.
fully rehabbed, it's fully tenanted. And I don't know, I'm really happy for him. But anyway, just had to throw that out there that I get punched in the nose a lot, and I didn't get punched in the nose yesterday. And I was like, wow, where's my punch in the nose? Cool. I was
I don't
excited.
understand why some agents get so upset about it. It's just take it and say nope and move on.
Well, and I've told him a million times, I'm like, it's just business. It's not personal. No one's saying your home is ugly. I never say anything rude or negative about the home. And if they push me why the offer is so low, of course I'm going to come up with a way and go, well, they're concerned about the foundation or maybe the sheetrock and the dining
Yeah.
room. I mean, I'm going to come up with a reason if I'm asked, but I am not here to punch them in the nose with my lowball offer. I usually try to be very kind. We loved the property, a little concerned about the area, but we think this price is very fair. Like I'm actually usually the very nice cop who's sort of begging,
Mhm.
but for me, it's really the end result. Like I love a good deal when I'm buying for myself, and I definitely want my buyer to get the best deal possible. And of course, it's their job to represent their seller and get them the most money. So that's where the duel comes in. And I frankly enjoy that part of it. So I was like, wow. So anyway, but it's just business. It's really just my guy running his numbers and saying, okay, I'm comfortable at this number. And he actually nailed it. So I'm really happy for him. And I'm happy for the seller too. I think the seller just, maybe they just needed to get out. Maybe they had hard money. I mean, I truly don't know
Yeah.
the circumstances. So I did want to, before we get into seller financing, I wanted to bring up a news article that I found. One thing that isn't discussed a ton, but I've been hearing about it a lot the last 6 months. And as you know, Chandler, it's the talk everywhere is that commercial real estate is declining. That's the fear. And we're for sure seeing some fear in the lending market for commercial real estate. So people have been talking for a while because there's still a huge need for housing, especially multifamily housing. But then we have all this office space that's sitting empty. So the big challenge for developers that I've been hearing the talk about for the past 6 to 8 months is how do we take this office space and turn it into residential? Because it's already zoned commercial, right? So this is really not completely applicable to Savannah, although I'll get to that. But you look at like Chicago, New York, San Francisco is a great example. San Francisco, I was reading this morning, they have 20% office vacancy right now.
Really.
That's very high. I have just to tell you market to market, I have a commercial property for rent. I think it's renting. It's about to be rented, but in Bluffton, South Carolina, which is just north of us, it's my property, and it's a commercial property and office space right near Hilton Head. And the vacancy in Hilton Head or Bluffton is 1.4% vacancy for office space. San
Big.
Francisco is 20. So
Yeah.
that really tells you, what's going on in the market. This is boomtown. SF is, having a hard time. So anyway, when you look at big cities that have these giant office buildings that they can't fill with office space, it's if a developer can find a way to convert it and still make money, that's
Mhm.
huge. But you look at the water demands, the drain, a lot of the office space is very simple. It's really about internet and plugs, and there's only a few bathrooms per floor, things like that. So it's quite a challenge. And I hadn't heard of anyone really actually going after it. But today or yesterday, I'm sorry, a story hit Silverstein, which is a huge developer. They actually remade the World Trade Center. So, these guys have serious backing behind them. They actually are going after it. They're doing a 30-story building in the finance district in downtown New York City, downtown Manhattan, I should say. So they're going to overhaul 410,000 square feet and turn it into residential. And you think about New York City, like there's not a need for as much office, but there's a huge need for housing. So if they can do it in an equitable manner, I think they're going to do really well.
I think it does well. I think the reason for the office space is because everybody's moving out of New York and
Right.
California for tax
Absolutely.
reasons. But as far as housing, still need a ton of it in California and
Exactly.
so I think it'll do really well, actually.
I hope so. These guys have a lot of money. Again, it's very expensive converting an office
Yeah.
into an apartment complex. I mean, that is not a $20,000 job. So
Mhm.
you've got to have some heavy backing. And with lending tightening, that's even bigger. But I think everyone's going to be really watching this because if Silverstein can do it and crack the nut, then everyone else I think is going to really jump on board. And that's exciting for those of us in residential real estate. That's exciting I have so many clients wanting multifamily. Well, make it happen. The one application I want to apply this to with Savannah is that we talk a lot here at Sid was here about short-term rentals. Everyone wants to own a licensed short-term rental in the historic district. As you know, we manage many ourselves. And the one way to get around the very tight short-term rental certificates, which are limited is that you can buy a property that's zone commercial. If the property is zone commercial, the city will give you a certificate. So I want to put a bug in your ear to my clients, any of my future clients, anyone looking at Savannah, you can get a great rate of return. It's all about that purchase price. Okay. Going back to someone like me being very willing to be punched in the nose. But if you can get a commercial building at a great price and then have your formula for converting it to apartment space, you could potentially bring in $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 per month per apartment as a fully licensed short-term rental. So I just wanted to put that out there. That's my application to Savannah.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people. They're kind of getting out of the short-term rentals and they're going towards boutique hotels because, like you
True.
said, it's already commercial, and then
Right.
they created their own little boutique hotel. I think that's going to be the next kind of big thing that people are jumping into.
Absolutely. And here in Savannah, we're doubling the size of the convention center. So we're already booking larger conventions for late 2024, as I know you're aware, Chandler. But you're right. A hotel license, you have a lot of authority there. You don't have to worry about that disappearing. That's a very secure license. So absolutely. That's a great thought, actually. Turn it into a short-term, a boutique hotel. You can run it as a hotel, a bed and breakfast, or as a short-term rental. I've personally done that model. And it can be very lucrative if you pick the right market.
Yeah, for sure. Savannah's a good one for it.
Absolutely.
It's
Yep.
just finding it could be tough.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Once you have that certificate, it's very valuable. People want to come stay here. And like I said, with the conventions coming in, these short-term rentals are going to do even better. They're doubling the size of our convention center, and they're supposed to be doubling the size of the hotel on Hutchinson Island. We have a beautiful Westin over there.
Hmm.
And I don't know if I think it's a separate hotel they're building, but it's supposed to be the same size. They haven't even broken ground on the hotel. Like the developer and the city keep fighting. So we're going to end up with this giant convention center and the same amount of hotel rooms that we have today with half the size. And that's going to push everyone into the historic district to stay in some of the short-term rentals that we manage, and other small boutique hotels, like you're saying. So there's a huge opportunity. It's going to take them years to get that hotel built, but the
Yeah.
convention center will be done next year for sure.
I didn't know they were building a hotel right there,
They
which would be
are. They
pretty
they
cool.
just haven't. It's made the paper several times. Yep. They keep. I don't even know what the issue is, but the developer is upset. I think maybe his costs have gone up, or there's some reason he has not broken ground, and it's some argument with the city. And I don't know if it's financing or permitting or what, but it's
Huh.
gonna it's gonna be a boost for us. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So let's hear about your seller finance deal.
Yes, I'm
Excited about this
so
one.
excited. This will be my fourth seller finance deal as an investor. And I want to say that a big part of seller financing is about the relationship that you have with the seller. That's important. This is, I'm counting this as four, even though I haven't closed it yet. But three of the four deals that I have seller financed, I knew the owners for a while before. One of them, I had just met him, but I made sure to get to know him and told him who I was. I kind of had several conversations with him before I pitched him, and I was buying several properties from him. And I said, would you be willing to seller finance one of them? So he was comfortable with that. I doubt I could have just walked in the door and him financed all of them, just because he didn't know me. But it's been a great relationship and I appreciated him very much. And so he was getting paid out completely on some of the properties, and then he financed one, which was a duplex. So that was great. But interestingly enough, all of the seller finance deals I call them 10-10-5s. And basically what I like to do, and again, everything is negotiable. You can really set your own terms, and the seller can also counter. But on a 10-10-5, I really like shorter term lending. And a lot of these sellers, everyone needs to be aware. Someone that's considering seller financing is not 28 years old. They're not 45. They're usually in their 70s, 80s. Okay.
Yep.
They really are. Everyone that I have seller finance with is 75 or up. And so they don't see themselves as having 30 years. Okay. And that's natural. Even though they could pass that lien on to their children and their children would continue making payments, they don't want to deal with that. So the biggest reason I like a 10-10-5 is because it's a 10-year amortization. So a guy in his 70s is going to go, okay, that's going to be solid income for me into my 80s. But
Yeah.
then Julie's got me paid off and I don't have to be worrying about it after I'm dead or saddle my family with doing collections. I mean, no one wants to do that. So with a 10-10-5, again, you want to take into the account the age of the seller, but I've got a 10-year amortization. So after 10 years, I will have the sales price completely paid off. I'm going to do a 10% down payment, which is wonderful, as you know,
Mhm.
and then a
Good.
5% APR. I have talked every single one of them into a 5% APR. Now, some of these I did back when mortgage rates were low. Some I did when they were in the 5s and 6s. And then this one is now when mortgage rates are in the 7s and 8s. So this 5% APR is very valuable, especially in today's market. But I was very happy that this gentleman accepted my terms 10-10-5. I am getting a little bit ahead of myself. This is someone I've known for years. His grandson plays baseball with my son, and I learned just kind of randomly through some of our friends, that he had a storage facility that he hadn't been able to sell, and it happens to be in a really solid growth area, and I mean probably the fastest growth in this area. So
Mhm.
as soon as I heard the term he can't sell it and it's in this city, I was like, what? Excuse me, like my ears were like, so I reached out to him right away and I just really built that relationship. I didn't know him super well at that point, but again, we had been around each other for many years. So he knew who I was. He thought highly of my son, which helped. If my son were a total hellion, that could have probably been a problem for my deal. But luckily, my son is a great kid and also very good friends with his grandson. So he knows my family, and that's a big deal. So I definitely did not bring up the seller financing at first. I didn't even know what he had. I just knew the city and I knew that he wanted to sell it and he hadn't been able to do so. Well, it turns out he had never put it on the market. And he just really didn't want to fool with a lot of complications. So he finally agreed to tell me what he had. And then he happened to mention, he said, well, I just sold, this hunting land that I have, and I'm kind of worried about the tax consequences if I sell it to you this year. But he said, I do want to sell it. It wears my wife out. She's mailing out, the bills every month to everyone in the storage facility. So that's been bothering him. And so I said, well, I have an answer for this. And this is our 8th or 9th conversation. You understand this is not day one. Hi, I'm Julie. Can you finance for me? You have to really build up to this. So when he mentioned the tax consequences, I said, well, I have an answer for you. I said, is there any way you would consider financing it to me? And I said, I'm a great borrower. My husband and I have really great credit. I have also done this with several other people. I have references. And he thought about it and he got back to me. He said, you're one of the few people I would. He said, but I've known you a while and, I'm comfortable. And I was like, yes, I was so happy because that really spreads out his tax consequences. And, a lot of people are scared to loan to someone that they don't know, but at the same time, they're very safe. Like he's going to get a first lien on the property. My lawyer will drop the paperwork. They're going to file that lien. He has every right to take it back if I don't pay. So when you're talking about property, you're pretty safe. Someone selling a business, you don't usually want that business back. And I understand where people go, yeah, I don't really want to sell or finance the business because what if you don't pay? Then I have to take it back. And the whole reason I'm selling it is because I'm tired.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited about this opportunity. It's a great property. There's a lot of room to run on the pricing. It's underpriced for sure. And the seller financing just really is the icing on the cake.
Yeah, I like the deal because you can get pretty creative with it. It's got some extra space to where you can add on to it, and it's really cool. I'm kind of excited to see what you do with it. I don't know what you're going to do with it yet, but I'm sure you're going to find a way to make some money on it.
Yes.
So
Well, and I appreciate that you came out with me and saw it. It was great to have another set of eyes that you actually gave me a lot of great ideas. That with the seller financing at a 10-year amortization, if I keep the rates at the rates this gentleman has them at, I'll be losing money every month. I want to be clear on that. So I'm going to have to very quickly kind of get the rent numbers up.
mhm.
So I had my assistant, call around the different facilities in the area and find out. And he's about 40% underneath
Yeah,
market. So
very mom and pops ran business. Kind of like you said, his wife was sending,
yeah.
you know, we had a rip on your Tesla for a little bit.
Yeah, that was funny. He did not like my car. This guy is an old
He
school farmer, and he was like, "What are you driving?" And I'm like, "I
talked
love
trucks or
it."
nothing.
I completely disagree. Boy, he was coming for me on that. Luckily, he liked my price. I didn't care if he liked the car or not. I wanted him to take my price. So I
Yeah.
figured use the battle, win the war on that one.
Another thing I like about seller finance is some of these sellers will get so stuck on price where you can go, all right, you want your price, then I need my terms to be a little bit more down, or like percent your interest rate or whatever. That's a good thing about seller finance. You kind of make some wiggle room, kind of overpay here as long as I win on my terms.
It's a very good point. I agree. It's always your price, my terms, my price, your terms. And
Yeah.
you're absolutely right.
And most buyers want to win on both sides. And I'm like, no, you can't win on both sides. It can be a win-win. So
Yeah, you are absolutely right. I see people every day throw up their hands and walk away from a decent deal over $5,000. And I'm
yeah.
like, this market is appreciating, 30% a year right now. Like, 2 years from now, the $5,000 doesn't matter because it's going to be worth 30%, maybe 20% more even. So that's a great point. Absolutely.
Yeah, I've seen you are right about that. I've seen so many people walk away over 5, 10, and they have a property right next to it. I'm like,
Yes.
"You can make your property look better if you would just go ahead and spend the extra 5 grand."
You're right. I'm very big on once I have a property in an area, especially an up and coming area that might be a little bit rough when I buy in it. It usually is. If I can get something nearby, every property additional to my property, especially if the property lines touch or face each other, it's more valuable to me than the first one, honestly, because now I'm building up my original investment. It becomes worth more, right?
So with this being your first self-storage, you a little nervous about it, not knowing what you're going into? How do you feel about it?
I'm very nervous about it. And it's crazy. I'm sure everyone can relate to this. And Chandler, I know you can relate to this. Every time I get a deal under contract, I freak out. And even though I got a fantastic price, I literally woke up the night after and I'm like, oh no, I only understand residential real estate and commercial real estate. What am I doing? Like, I really had a freak out moment. But yet, every time I tell one of my friends my deal, they like hate my guts. And that makes my day. Like, if I can piss off another real estate investor with the home run that I just got under contract, that's the best day ever. So I know it's a solid deal. And like you said, there's a like, okay, like again, it's gonna be losing money for the first couple months until I get the rent straight, right? But then once that happens, once I get the rent going and I'm now cash flowing even $200-300 a month above my expenses, that's fantastic. But at that point, I'm gonna need to put some money in. What I know that you walked around it quite a bit with me, Chandler. There were some improvements there that need to be made, I would say, within the first few years.
Yeah, and then honestly, I think just the dirt alone is going to appreciate,
Mm-hmm.
like, in the first year or two.
Mm-hmm.
So just holding on to that and just
Right.
only making 200 to 300 bucks, you'll be just fine. But yeah, if you can find a way to make that dirt cash flow,
Right.
there's a lot of extra dirt
Right.
on that
That's the key.
property.
I feel like in the first couple of years, and you were very helpful on this, we need to put down some loads of milling because it's starting to get muddy around there and you can see where people have gotten stuck. And then I want to expand the fencing. The fence is not bad, but it's a little tight. Like it's a pretty good sized lot, multiple acres, but the fencing is just right around the facility. So I felt like those were two things I would probably want to do right away.
Yeah,
Um,
those are cheap fixes too. Like, and for those that asking about milling is basically just asphalt that doesn't get pressed in.
Mhm.
It'll eventually get pressed in because people drive over it. But a lot of people like milling because it's just really cheap to get. So
I need cheap. Yeah. I think those will probably be my first two improvements. But then there's so much more acreage left and it's in a flood zone. So you'd either have to build up the land by 3 feet, which, of course is doable. But we're very interested in doing some covered boat and RV storage. So it's kind of exciting to have that big piece of land that we could do anything on. We could add a building. In fact, one of my friends suggested, he said, hey, put up a 3-story building, leave the bottom part open, because now a flood zone doesn't matter. Here in Savannah, we have a lot of houses up on stilts, my house is, and you can park underneath it, even though
yeah,
it's a flood zone. So he said, raise it up and then put 2 stories above the parking. And I was like, that's a great idea, although it sounds really expensive. Um, and then it was funny because I told my husband, I said, hey, Mike had this great idea. What do you think? And he goes, so they're going to haul their stuff upstairs? And I was like, crap, we'd had to put in an elevator. And that sounds expensive. But at the same time, it's going to be a big investment. I have to say it's a good price and it's good terms, but I
yeah.
can really see where we're going to have to invest in it as well.
You can get real creative, and I think kind of like the best thing, like you said, you're super nervous, is like having friends that have done it that you can call.
Right.
Probably the best thing. I've even seen some people say, I can use the land as a lay down yard where like wood and all that
That's true.
out the land and use, hey, you just want to plop your wood here? Because there's a lot of building going on around there. So maybe some people just need a lay down yard to set their wood down, or even throw some more milling down and just use it as parking
Yeah.
for 18-wheelers.
Yeah, uncovered parking would be very cheap. I totally agree. There's a lot of opportunity there, and I'm excited. It's going to take cash to do it.
Yeah.
And that's probably what intimidates me, but I want to just get it cash flowing and sit on it for a minute and really get to know the space. But they're putting in, I think, 12,000 homes just very close by. So I know the need is there. So I don't want to wait too long, because if I just had the land sit there, then that's not doing me a whole lot either. So
And we didn't realize it was like 30 seconds from downtown.
yeah,
Like it was right in
not
the middle of the city.
not downtown Savannah. I wish it was actually, but this other city. And I'm purposely being careful because it's under contract and I don't own it yet. But you're right. The location I thought was fantastic, just on all levels. It's a solid deal. So the purchase price is good, and then we'll have to invest some as time goes on. But I think it's going to be a really great long-term investment for us. I'm really excited.
I
So
liked it. I liked it when I was out there. So
I
you
did
worked it
too.
pretty good. I think he liked the business side of you. Sounds like you put your salesman hat on and
I did. And already, this is a new stretch for Sid was here. Sid was here is going to manage this. And I understand property management very well. Is it different for self-storage? Yeah, but it's a lot simpler than a short-term rental. I'll tell you that.
it
So,
seems very simple. That's what I liked
yeah,
about it. I was like, people store their stuff in here, and then
right.
some people just forget about it.
Yeah.
And
I feel like we can handle it. And I always want to be learning something new. I always want to be open to, different things within real estate. Like, what a great sector, to get into the self-storage space. And I know quite a few large self-storage people, like quite a few. And I've mentioned this deal and they're all like, yeah, we wouldn't even bother on that. Like, this is
yeah,
under 50 units. These guys, they want 100 units or more. So luckily, that's one reason I've been able to get my hands on it. Honestly, the big dogs don't really care. And I'm happy about that. I don't mind
yeah,
being a small fry.
you can start somewhere. I want to
Yeah.
ask, how long did it kind of take you to get this deal under contract? Like, you heard about the seller, was this several months? Because I know some people are just like, oh, you find a deal. Sometimes it can take a little bit to create that relationship, talk to them a couple of times, and then finally you get it.
Well, okay. The first thing I want to say, I'm really big on this. I don't care if you're the buyer or the seller. I don't care. You have to always negotiate from a place of power. Always. The second you give that up, you're going to lose that negotiation, or at least you're going to lose something in that negotiation. So the worst thing you can do when you're trying to get in good with a seller is to be desperate and be in a hurry, rush them, especially someone that's elderly. They need to process. They want to, your trust is huge. Okay. Huge. So I actually found out about that this facility existed. I found out in September of last year, and it is now, well, it's August, but I sealed the deal in July. So that's 8, 9 months, 10 months, maybe. So I found out about it. I immediately took action. I got his info. Well, actually, I didn't get his info. I waited till I saw him at the ball field. I was very strategic, like I don't want to freak this guy out. Like, no, whoa, especially as a female, a lot of people don't really want me just coming for them, and say they'll take it better from men. This is my observation, sue me. So I hunted him down in a very fun, festive environment. I said, hey, I heard you had this storage facility. I am a real estate investor, and he's like, oh yeah. So I just let him talk. And so I just kept going over and just letting him talk. And then I did get his phone number. I had never called him before, but I know his daughter and she knows me. And so after a few conversations, I got his number and I just stayed in touch. And he told me flat out that there was someone else who had expressed interest. And this man is a man of his word, which I completely respect. And he said, I've given my word to this person. I don't think that they can get financing. And if they don't take it, you would be next on my list. He finally told me that after 4 or 5 conversations. I said, no problem. I left him alone. And then I just kept reaching out. Hey, just checking on you. And so I called him a few weeks ago and I said, I really want to see your storage facility. How's it going? And he goes, well, I just found out that the guy is not going to buy it. He's expanding his business. So I promise you, it was a long process, but well worth the wait to build that relationship.
Yeah, no, that's what some people think. It's just this quick kind of
Right.
2 days. And to be honest with you, I can't stand the aggressive ones where it's just like
I agree.
you hear about it and they just blow you up.
They show all their cards immediately.
Yeah.
Okay. And if I'm the seller and you're telling me how desperate you are, my price is going up every 10 minutes. I got an offer on one of my commercial spots this morning and my price was very high and I will take that price because I don't want to sell it. Like they gave away their power like that. And sorry, like that's just how I see it. So I tried to purposely, even though I wanted it so desperately, I talked about this for months, but I very carefully just kept it low. Just number one, you've got to be likable, you've got to be honorable, and you've got to have a good reputation. And it's a process. It's a lot of money, it's their retirement savings, it's their income. This is really sensitive information.
Yeah, no, no doubt. And some people, he's owned it for a long time, so you don't want to.
He built it.
Yeah, you want to let him take his time with it. So
Well, and as we discussed about my offer that got accepted like that, a lot of times the sellers take their property very personally. And I understand that because I've done the rehabs with my own 2 hands. And let me tell you, the more you have invested in that property, you do take it very personally when someone insults it. So if you're aggressive, it can come across as insulting. And, or maybe you're trying to get the price lower, so you have to say something negative. Be very, very, very tactful. If you have to, to justify your price. And for me, I had to say, why my price was so low. And it was because his income is so low. I told him very honestly, and he understood that. I said, I no disrespect at all. My price is based on your income numbers. That's how I based it. And that's true. So because he's kept the price low, that gave me an advantage to get a lower sales price, if that makes sense.
sure. Yeah, I like those like strategic little things you can do. I know someone told me the other day, they're like, oh, if you want to go in low ball or just low, or just kind of like ease into it and be like, hey, I feel comfortable with this number. And then you tell them the number and they freak out and you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm not saying I wasn't willing to pay for it. I was just comfortable with that number.
Mhm.
At this number, I'm a little uncomfortable, but at this number, I'm comfortable. And they're kind of like, okay, that makes sense. I'm not saying I wasn't willing to pay it,
You
but
kind of
that
work him in
was a
there.
little uncomfortable for me. And I was like, you know what? That's kind of smart. I like that kind of idea going into it.
You're the king of that, Chandler. You always get your way and you're always very chill, very kind. And I think it's great.
Yeah.
I, as an agent, when I see a property sit, this is one of my little tricks for you. I'll see a property sit and I know it's going to be a really low offer.
Yeah.
And I'm not in a rush. Sometimes this is for myself. Okay. And so I've kind of told the agent, like, hey, I think I have an offer, but it's kind of low. Well, the property's been sitting. So the agent's quite anxious. Right. And so that kind of warms them up, just like what you're saying. It warms them up where I go, hey, and I've got one. I still haven't offered on it yet, but I will. And she's been begging me for that offer.
Mhm.
And it's going to be really painful. And I haven't, I'm never going to offer unless I'm going to back it up. So I'm kind of hoping they take, even if it's probably like half what the sales price is. That's awful, but that's what it's worth to me. And it's going to be all cash, and maybe they take it and maybe they don't. I don't really care, but, I've been warming her up. So she's now begging me for that information. Well, guess who has the power? Me. Now I can come in with that very, embarrassingly low offer. And maybe I get it, maybe I don't. But I've worked that many times where I get the agent to kind of like, come on, send it over. My buyer really wants it, or my seller, really wants to see the offer. And I'm like, okay, but just be
Alright,
aware.
I like that. That's really
Yeah,
smart.
it works. It's true. And sometimes I get another offer and we lose the property. It's okay.
Yeah.
But that does work. I've made it happen a few times and I'm about to do it again.
Yeah. Well, back to the self-storage.
Yeah.
What we'll do is we'll plan on coming back in on our
Yes.
year, 6 months, and kinda updating.
Absolutely. Once I own it, I'm very happy to do a deep dive. I will share all the numbers. If we're here in a learning environment, it's no problem to be like, this size
Yeah.
is bringing in this, and now I got it up to this. Like, we're here to learn. And so we'll definitely have another deep dive. But today we just wanted to kind of really touch on seller financing. And the other thing I wanted to say about the amortization period, a lot of sellers want like a 3-year amortization. That's still a great deal. That still gives you 3 years for these interest rates to drop. So don't be opposed to that. I would have taken that if he would have insisted on it, to be honest with you.
Well, yeah, we'll come back to this in 6 months or a year, whatever, um, and see how that's going. I'm excited about that. Alright, thanks for the info. We will see you on the next one. Please like, comment, tag, and share this. We greatly appreciate it. And we'll see you on the next episode. See ya.
Bye.
All right.